Welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, a place where Milts can connect to one another to inspire, motivate, and collaborate to continue to build a strong and well-connected alumni association. I believe that Milton Hershey School rebranding is actually just getting started, and I want to be part of that journey. I think the best way to commemorate Milton and Catherine Hershey is to continue our own legacy that impacts the world as Milton Hershey so impacted us. I believe the level of extraordinary that each and every Milt carries within them is deeply underestimated, and this podcast will help in the journey to show off what Milts are really made of. I'm excited to get to know more Milts, more insight to their upbringing, and what they're doing now to build their legacy and bring value to others, and what being a Milt really means to them. Today I'm speaking with Susan Grippen, class of 1983. Susan is a dedicated wife and mother of 3 wonderful kids and was the owner of a successful hair salon for 24 consecutive years until she decided to sell her salon and retire this past year. She's a true example of longevity and success in business ownership, an admirable alumni to look up to. Susan's been a pivotal part of the Milton Hershey Alumni Association and the ongoing connection of Milts worldwide. So welcome to the Milt Talk Legacy Builders podcast, Susan, and thank you so much for being my guest.
And I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you. So what year did you get to Milton Hershey?
I went to Milton Hershey in 1977.
Wow. Okay. And how old were you when you got there?
I was 11.
Okay.
11. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I always am curious exactly how different it was in your time when you first arrived to when you graduated to this generation of kids now.
Yeah. Well, you know what I really think? I don't think that first day is any different for anybody. I really don't. After all these years, I was involved a lot with, the first day. I can't even think of for whatever reason, but, I would go up and volunteer, and I think it's all, it doesn't matter. You always have that pit or whatever you want to call it. And I think that will always be the case. It's the unsure, the unknown, what's happening, where am I going, who's going to be there.
Yeah.
So I don't think that will ever change. I mean, different enrollment day has changed, but they, of course they've tried to make it easier for kids. I don't know when you went, we were just dropped off at the student home and it was like, all right, take care. See ya.
Exactly.
At least now they try and make it, but I still think no matter what, like I was involved with one girl that came up to me and I really helped her try and get into school. And the day of enrollment, she was literally there and she said, I can't do this. And I just said to her, look, here's your options. You either do this or somebody else is going to take your spot.
Right.
And so she wound up, she was nervous. We're all scared. And that's what I told her, it's no different. So
yeah, it was. I was 10 when I arrived in 1996. And it was the same thing. My mom took us to the student home. We actually didn't know we were staying. We kind of thought we were just visiting friends. My brothers had gone to the school before us, like a year before us. So we thought we were just kind of visit and see what it's like and then go back home with my mom. But, we played downstairs with the girls in the student home. And then when we came back up, my mom was gone. So we're like, what's going on? So it was it was tough. Like you said, a lot of uncertainty, not knowing what's happening. I think my mom at that time thought that was like the best way, which of course now we understand that probably isn't. But at 10, thank goodness we were at such an age where we're so much more elastic, emotionally, to where we can, adapt to different things. Yeah. And I also think having other girls there our age helped a lot because they were going through the similar thing. So we were all going through it together. Yeah.
So were you there with your sister?
Yes. So my two brothers came home. Yes. Yeah. We were in the same student home at first. And then after 1 year, I just didn't want to be in that student home anymore. The house parents and I just really didn't click together very well. At that time, I think I had a really hard time with authority. I was a very angry child. So that was very hard for me. And my sister was the exact opposite. She was very, not submissive, but easygoing. You just kind of go with the flow. And for me, I was gave a lot of pushback. Definitely didn't like the situation, my mom being away. So that was hard. So after a year, I transferred to a different student home, and she actually stayed, my sister stayed in that student home her entire time. So 7 years she stayed with her parents. Yeah. And for me, I actually was in 4 different student homes. So I bounced
You
around
were just like me.
Yeah.
I was the same way, same and angry. Yeah. At the time, I didn't know I was angry. I was just a nasty person, but yeah.
You know, it's funny because I think a lot of, like you said, we didn't know that we were angry. We were just acting out because of whatever we had gone through before, or, you know, we weren't taught otherwise. But I think Milton Hershey created a good environment to help us kind of that. Like right away, they put me into counseling. That has gotten even better. I think it's evolved for sure. The counseling that they put me in wasn't very compatible. I think my counselor was like 70 something. So definitely it wasn't very compatible, but the fact that they had those resources was incredibly helpful.
Right.
Were you the only person in your family to attend, or did you have siblings?
So my brother went originally. So in 77, it's like when they first started enrolling girls, maybe 76, 77. I was in intermediate division. I was one of the first in Conestoga. Wow. And anyway, my brother was the one that was supposed to go. And my mom was like, try it out. If you don't like it, I'll take you out. My brother wound up getting in so much trouble. He was gone like 3 months later.
Oh my God.
And yes. And then I was even more resentful because I wasn't allowed to leave. So it was, I mean, I attribute my entire life to Milton Hershey School. Like I am, at the time I couldn't see it, but from when I graduated forward, I understood.
Yeah.
So
yes. Yeah. I absolutely agree 100% with that. Yeah. Yes. And how old was your brother when he attended?
My brother was, if I was 11, he was 13. He was going into 9th grade.
Yeah. It's a tough teenage time going into high school. Yeah. And you said you had lived with your mom during that time.
I lived with my mom. Yeah. Okay. In Philadelphia.
Okay. So you came from Philly. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
So you weren't too far away, which is great.
No. Right. Yes.
Yeah. And on weekends, did you go home to visit mom, or?
Because we didn't have that. Did you have that when you were there?
Yes.
Okay. So we didn't have that. We had 10 days at Christmas. I think it was like 10 days at Easter and 30 days in the summer. That was it. There was no, and I don't know if it was allowed or how it worked, but she would only come up once a month.
Okay.
For a visitation, or sometimes it was every other month. It just depended, you know, what was going on, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you stay in Conestoga, or did you go to different student homes?
So in intermediate division, I stayed at Conestoga. Okay. I really liked those house parents. They were super nice. But in when I went to senior division, I probably was in like 4 different homes. I was in a lot of, I was just, you know, I ran away. I didn't want to be there. The whole, my last home, I had the Van Sports. I think that's how you say their last name. I called them the Vans, but they were a young couple. They were my savior. They were awesome. I love them. If I would have had them all through high school, I would have been great. You know, it's just to connect. It's just like you were saying, like some people you connect with, other people you don't. And I didn't connect with I was in a lot of turmoil, a lot of anger, a lot of, you know, acting out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of it, like you said, we didn't understand why, but I think a lot of it was like that feeling of, why am I here? You know, this weird feeling of abandonment, control. The structure, I think, was extremely different from how we grew up in California before Milton Hershey, where we had zero structure. So I think that extreme structure of chores, scheduling, was I pushed back against that a lot. Right. I'm grateful for it now because it's taught me structure with my daughter, which is great. Yeah.
Right. Now we're probably over the top. I'm like, okay, it's 8:00. We have to get to bed.
Yeah, exactly. My husband actually has more of the structure than I do. I think even till this day, as an adult, I still push back a little bit. I definitely got like the domestic talents of running a household, keeping it clean, cooking, and all of that. I definitely got that from Milton Hershey, sure. Right. But the structure I still kind of push back against that. Yeah. But he's and he didn't go to any sort of boarding school. He just went to a charter school in Philadelphia. But I think he gets his structure just from his mom and his discipline. Yeah.
Right.
And so did you do any sports or any extracurricular activities?
So, we all did the intramural stuff,
Okay.
right? You guys did that too with the student homes. And then sports, like I did cheerleading, track. I did band front. I was involved in a lot. I like to be busy. ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. I like to be busy. I would do anything to be out of the student home.
Yeah.
So whatever it took, I was doing it. Yes. Yeah. Volunteering, you name it, anything to be busy. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I did all of that for the same reasons. I just didn't want to be in the student home. So any sport I could get into or theater or anything, I was doing that for those reasons, basically. Yeah. But it's funny, even for those reasons, it allowed us to get more involved in all these extra stuff.
Yes.
So there's a reason for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And when you graduated, at that time, they didn't have college funding at that time, right?
It was limited. Like I wasn't anywhere on the spectrum for that. Like I was just getting by. Like I was just maintaining a C so I could do my sports, and I was not booked, wasn't my thing. Yeah. But I'm sure they had it for like this, the higher ups, but it wasn't on my agenda.
Got it. Yeah. And when you graduated, did you decide to go to college, or did you go straight into entrepreneurship?
No, it's really funny. So when I graduated, I went back home and I did business in Milton Hershey. So then I worked in Center City, like corporate offices, like for banks and architectural firms, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So because my mom passed right after Milton Hershey, and then I was pretty much on my own. Like it was survival mode. I had to work, I had bills, I had no one taking care of me. So I basically was on my own. And it's funny, I don't know if you remember Mr. Webster.
Yes.
Lil, like he was at the time, he would meet me in Center City. We'd have lunch together because there was no cell phones. Everything was, regular phone. Yeah. But he was really good. He really looked in on me, checked in on me after my mom passed. But so then just eventually I got pregnant. I had my son, and instead of, you're supposed to move up in the world, and I lost a house to somebody that was a con artist, and I was moving down. So at one point I had called my cousins who were like my parents here in New Jersey. And I said, look, I'm not making it. I need help. Like, can I come live with you? And I said, just till I get my feet on the ground, because I had my son. And thank God they took me in. I got a job. So long story short, my son started kindergarten. I worked for an accounting firm, but he got on the bus before I could, I had to be at work before he got on the bus, and I didn't get home from work till after he got off. And it broke my heart. It just totally broke. So my hairdresser just had a baby, and she was looking for a nanny. And I said, I need to make X amount of dollars. And she was like, that's fine. You can bring your son, who was only 5. You can take him to activities. You just have to take my son. So I worked for her. Then I went to school for nails to learn how to do nails, because she had the beauty salon. I thought the days I'm not working for her, I'll go do nails. Yeah. And then 2 years later, she and I had a falling out, and I wound up going back to school for cosmetology. Okay. And then I literally opened up a shop 2 years later. Wow. So it's funny because my mindset, and I don't know where it comes from, but first of all, I'm a doer. Like I'll work 3 jobs. You do whatever. That's not Hershey. Whatever we need to do to get food on the table, bills paid. But also, I jump into things, I'll just do it. And if it doesn't work, I'll try something else. It was never a lifelong dream, but I was like, why work for somebody else? I might as well work for myself. And, I was very lucky that I had I was probably 32. I don't remember how old I was, 30, maybe. I might've been 30 actually. But, I just jump into things. I feel like even buying our house here, I'm like, you know what, if it doesn't work, you can sell it. There's nothing, you can achieve anything if you just put your mind to it and you don't overthink. You have to think things. And I had the business background, thank God for all those years. Yeah. So I knew business wise what I needed to do, But sometimes people are afraid to take the chance, and you just kind of like, if it didn't work, then it just doesn't work. I knew I could find a job, you know, so
yeah,
and it worked.
True. Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know, that speaks to your entrepreneurial spirit, because that's what it takes to be an entrepreneur and to make it, is that I'm willing to take the risk. I'm willing to try, as opposed to I'm too scared, I'm not even going to try. And then I'm just going to sit with regret and not knowing if it ever would have worked or not. And there's so much to be gained from a failure if that were to happen. So much learning experiences to do it differently next time. Yeah, that's really great. So you were in your early 30s when you started the salon yourself?
Yeah, it's really funny because so in the state of New Jersey, you have to be licensed 2 years in order to like own a salon. Not necessarily own it. You can own it, but you have to, I didn't have my license long enough to be the manager.
Okay.
So I was like shy of 2 years having my license when I opened the business.
Yeah.
So the girl, Stephanie, who has been with me from day one, I worked at a salon, then there was like a month in between, and I wound up working for her someplace. She was managing a salon, and I told her I was opening a salon. Long story short, I needed her to come, or somebody to come with me, so I could get my license to open the salon, because I couldn't with my license.
Yeah.
So she came. I mean, she was a single mom. At that time, she had two. Well, she wasn't single at the time, but she, you know, she had it. She came from it, like all of us, not a good life. Like you know, I'll never forget. She always thanks me, you know. But one time she was. I forget how she was getting to work. She wasn't driving. I'm like, what are you doing? I'll get you a car. Like, I'll co-sign. I'll do whatever, you know, and she was just in a hard way. So the long story short, she had been with me for 20 something years.
Wow.
And, you know, everything comes full circle. Her daughter wound up getting her license.
Wow.
I was to the point where I wanted to sell. She wanted to buy. I was everything fell into place. She's very happy. I'm very happy. Yeah. So
that is great. And 24 years owning a salon, that's incredible. And especially through all the changing markets, you know, the market going up and down and things changing. That's a very long period of time to stay open and to stay, you know, working. I especially want to know, I mean, I'm sure in those 24 years, you've had lots of ups and downs due to markets or economy or whatever, but especially now during COVID, how did you guys pivot at all, or what were some of the things that you experienced during COVID?
So Stephanie actually owned the salon during COVID.
Yeah.
And I have to say, thank God for like all those like loans, you know, the PPL, you know, so what I did for her is I did a 5.5 year buyout. So I would get like a monthly check and I'll still for 2.5 more years, I'll get a monthly check, blah, blah, blah. So when COVID first started, I was like, oh my gosh, we had no idea. Nobody knew. So I was like, let's just throw, you know, payment to the end. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. And thank God for the loans. I mean, that really, even though you have to pay it back, it's minimal interest. And, you know, she took full advantage of that, which was beneficial to her also. Like it was smart.
Yeah.
So, so COVID for us, I mean, I always say, oh, I'm so glad that I sold before COVID, because it might've changed everything. I mean, who knows, you know? Yeah. But we all rallied together, and she's doing really well. I mean, I wouldn't have left, you know, I would never leave her high and dry. We just have a good relationship, you know. It was just time. Like, my husband was retiring. Yeah. I had cut my hours because of Hayden, and, you know, I'm so busy with the girls, and it just, because Mike retired and opened up an opportunity for me, I was like, hey, can I retire? So it all really worked out. I mean, COVID's been hard on people. I'm not making light of that. And it really, I mean, I know businesses that have closed down, you know, it's just sad. It's just awful.
Yeah, I know it has definitely taken a toll on every country, you know, worldwide, and small business owners, especially, I think, got the brunt of it all. You know, of course, individually, people who especially suffered, you know, health-wise, so many people passed.
Oh, yeah.
So many people lost loved ones, but from a business perspective and an economic perspective, so many small business owners either shut down or their business got better in some way, where they pivoted, and they went virtual if they had that opportunity. But with a business like a salon, it's very hard because it's a hands-on business. You know, it's very difficult to pivot and do something virtual when you need to be hands-on and do something with someone's face, hair, nails. Yeah.
And I think we all kind of towards, not in the beginning, because again, everybody was freaked out in the beginning, but towards the end, like I think we opened in June. So probably like May, all of us, we kind of got, like our clients were either get in touch with us or we would get in touch with them, and we were doing house calls. So we were doing, all of us, whatever we needed to do to maintain our client base. So when we did open, you know, they weren't, you know, flying ship and going to a different salon. So I think that, you know, that helped a lot.
Wow.
And it also made,
thought about that. House calls. Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Especially with your ongoing clients, your loyal clients who come back. Yeah.
Yes.
I actually did not even think about that. That's great.
And that made them feel really good. You know, it really, and it's funny because we had only been here a year in this house, but my neighbors knew I cut hair. So I was cutting hair out back in the driveway, you know, just trying to give people a boost, help them feel better about themselves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
it goes a long way. Having your hair done, your nails done, your face done, it really goes a long way for your confidence. You're just your self-care.
You feel better about
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Were you always interested in cosmetology, you think?
No, it's really funny. Never. It was never even on my spectrum. That's what's so, it was out of survival, you know, it was really out of survival. And, and I think because I had the business background from working for a lot of different businesses, it just evolved. And then one day it was like, why work for somebody else? Why not just own my own? And then I did the research and found the location. And so it just kind of, and that's kind of what happens with me. I don't, looking back on my life, things just, you know, I'm not a woesy me kind of person. I'm like, okay, pick it up, move on, you know, get it together. I will never be like, you know, woesy me, never.
That's that mindset makes all the difference. Absolutely. Like the victim mentality can absolutely crush you in life. And can crush your dreams and goals because it causes you to just kind of be defeated already. Yeah. So that's awesome that you don't have that mentality and instead have that's it. It happens. Get up and go. Let's just keep going.
It's a fighting mentality.
Yes.
I think it's from the Milt. I just do, because from day one, it was like, okay, get it together or you're going to be picked on. Like you either have to like rise above or you're going to be that, like, I know that sounds awful, but I just think from going to Milton Hershey School and being thrown into I know I can talk like this, but I'm a shy person. So, you know, going to the Milt was like internally, I was extremely shy, but you would never know that externally because of my personality, if that makes any kind of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people think, I tell people I'm an introvert and everyone's like, what? No way. And I'm like, yes, absolutely introverted. I don't like people even knocking on the door. If we order pizza, I'm like, Chris, can you please go get it? I don't even want to talk to anyone if I don't have to. I enjoy conversation. I enjoy people, but I also, after a while, it does get very exhausting. And then I yearn for like that alone, quiet time. Where I just don't have to do anything. Yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? I mean, it's not weird, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Like I enjoy the mornings when everybody's at work and school. It's just me. It's just like, whoo, you know. Yes, that's funny. Awesome. I'm the same way. We're very similar. When's your birthday?
Yeah, I'm December 1st.
Okay, I'm August.
Oh, you're in August. Okay, so I'm not good with horoscopes.
No, me either. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm like, so I know I'm a Sagittarius, but I don't know anything else.
And I'm Virgo, and I don't know anything else. So
yeah, I have a sister in California. She's the second oldest. And she's very much into that, the astrology and, you know, when were you born, what second, what day, what time, all of that. And she'll just tell you all about, and it actually works when she starts to tell a complete stranger about themselves. They're like, wow, you're so accurate. So I believe it, but I know nothing of it still.
Right.
Yeah. And I think what we have of that, you know, I can talk if I have to, I can be congenial, I can, you know, be transparent or whatever, jump into a room and have everyone like me or jump into a conversation. I think you're right. It absolutely comes from the mill. I think the fact that we were just thrown into such diversity and culture clash and that culture shock, and then we just had to kind of survive. I think that's what gave us that in return.
Right.
Just kind of be like chameleons everywhere we go.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It is. It's a great asset to have in your character to be able to connect pretty much with anyone.
It's so true. It's very true. Yes.
Yeah. We got a lot from, although it was very hard there, like you said, once graduating, I was like, wow, I cannot even be more grateful for having the opportunity to have been there. And now in hindsight, I'm always like, man, I wish I would have taken more opportunities. Like, why was they had the, what was it called? I forget the acronym, but it was like for people who wanted to get into nursing. They had
the trade, not the trades, but they had the
health off. Yeah, and they had the carpentry and the automotive and you know, the theater program. We had done Lion King on Broadway. Like the resources that were available, and I think at that time I just wasn't mentally mature enough to know the value of all those things. So although I was in a lot of sports and stuff, I never really saw them through or gave them the level of commitment that I should have to get from them as much as I could have. Yeah. But hindsight, you know, it's always 2020.
Well, and you're a kid. I mean, you were just doing all of us could like the biggest thing for me is I choose not to regret anything. That's a choice I make, because if I regretted one thing that happened, I mean, sure, I wish we all have things but I love where I am in life. And if one of those things were different, I would not be where I'm at today. So I choose not to regret anything. And what does regret get you? But heartache and pain and suffering. So I tell my son that all the time. He's a recovering addict and he's been up and down and through several businesses. And I'm like, then stop looking back. Like, don't regret it. Like, you're here now doing wonderful. You wouldn't be where you're at. Stop comparing like, I wish I was here, you know? So
absolutely.
If I try not to regret.
Such good advice, because it causes you to kind of live in the past and then not be able to see where you are and be content and happy with where you are and where you're going. Yeah. Looking back is always usually hurtful. It's not a happy thing to look back. It's usually you look back, you know, sometimes of course we look back with happy memories and we laugh and remember good times. But normally when people look back individually, it's usually in regret or what could I have done different? But you're absolutely right. If anything had changed, it would have changed the entire projection of your life. Yeah. That's good. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. I always say, you know, when I graduated, I had a boyfriend at the time, a Milton Hershey boyfriend, and I had gotten accepted to, Barnard, Fordham, and I think another college in New York, very prestigious college. And I decided to go to Johnson & Wales, which was also a good school, but totally not the status of those other schools. And it was mainly because of the boyfriend. I always used to say, oh man, I wish I would have done it different. I could have gone to a better college, maybe had much better opportunities, but then I would have never met my now husband, because he went to the same school. And right after graduation, we happened to be in the same state. And that's how we met. So had I not followed my boyfriend at that time, I would have never met my husband at this time. Yeah. So it's absolutely right. Everything happens for a reason and we need to embrace it. So what do you think has been your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur in those 24 years?
I'll tell you what, I'm very lucky, and I don't mean to, I'm just super, super lucky. Like, I don't, in the beginning, it's long hours. You're there all the time. It was very long. You have to put 150% into it. But I think, like, my biggest challenge was I'm not a boss.
Yeah.
I'm not a, like, I've had, like, Stephanie worked from day one. I had another girl, she's been there 17 years. And another girl that was there, I don't know how long Melissa's been there. Let's just say 13 years, like, so long.
Yes.
There was a time where I only had one person leave me to go to another salon. So my biggest thing was I always wanted everybody's input. I wanted them to always feel like we're a team. Just because my name's on the sign, we all make the decisions together. So not that that was a challenge, but I think it's important for people to feel needed and wanted, and their input to be important. So when I worked for other people in previous years, one thing that was always hard for me was, oh, can I have off? I have to go, whatever. That was always a difficult thing for me. So I never wanted that to be, just give me a heads up if you went off. I don't need to know what it's for. Just let me know. Yeah. Those kind of things, scheduling things. But I was very flexible, very, and I think therefore I had a great team.
Yes. And that speaks to your level of leadership. Because a lot of people get confused between a boss, manager, or a leader. And they're very different in the characteristics and how they, manage people or how they lead people. And the fact that you take, all of their input as making a collective decision that's what a leader does. A leader doesn't just say, this is what we're doing because this is what I say and this is what I think is best. A leader actually does bring in everyone's thoughts and makes them feel a part of that decision. And then that's what created your team. And I love that you called it a team, which is awesome. Yeah. And I think that's probably what created that level of longevity in your team.
Right.
That's awesome. That's crucial too. When you do have a business, the people that work in your business to feel a part of it, to feel part of the family. My brother he started a distribution company in California. I believe that was in 2005 or something like that. And most of his employees were Filipino or Mexican, because there's a lot of those cultures in California. A lot of them actually didn't even have papers to be able to work. So a lot of them had to work under the table and things like that. But when I came to work with my brother in 2008, him and I became partners, and I had come from corporate America. I was in pharmaceutical sales at the time, and I worked in hospitals, and it was very much, our managers and supervisors, and then the employees, and that level of, professionalism, all of that. And then when I came to work with my brother and I saw like this weird family culture environment, and I'm like, wow, you're not very good at managing, people like they're your friends. And I came in as like this hard, tough manager, and they didn't treat me the same as they treated my brother, and they didn't talk to me the same. They were kind of like walking on eggshells around me. My brother would always tell me, relax, because you're going to get more productivity out of them when you start to treat them more like family, maybe not like friends, but more like they're a part of this business and you're not just delegating. So when I started to learn how to do that, because I always saw that as, well, what if they, get too comfortable? Or I just thought it was more like corporate America.
Right.
So when I started to do that, I started to see how much more they wanted to do for us. And I just was so blown away by that. And I've never left that mindset. Chris and I, we started our own business in 2014 in finance. And I took that same mindset and I just transferred it into our new team. And we're very family oriented. We connect. Right. I feel like I can truly lead them because I take in, what they say. And we just, like you said, we collectively move forward. So, So important. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were obviously a business owner while raising your kids. How do you think that impacted your family dynamic? Being a business owner as opposed to corporate America.
So I think both of my children are workers. They're workers. Like my son, one thing he is like, he's a worker. Both of them, like there's an age difference, but my son worked his first job. He was like 11 or 12.
Wow.
Through one of my clients selling fruit on the beach. And then he went and was a dishwasher. And then, so right now he has his own construction company, but he's a worker. Like we could work 60 hours a week. I mean, that's how it is. And my daughter, who's 16, I'm so proud of her because this summer she's working. She gets a car next year. Yeah. So I made the mistake of telling her whatever she saves, I'll match, because I did that with my son.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my daughter's working 2 jobs, and she's up to 6,000 so far, and summer's not nearly over. And I'm like, holy cow, like she's going to get a nice car.
Yeah.
So I can't renege. Like my husband's like, well, we never discussed that. And I was like, well, this is what I did for my son. So my children are workers. And I think there's, and you will understand because we went to Milton Hershey. So we might not have worked a job, but we were workers. And they get up, like she's also doing crew, my 16-year-old. So we live in Ocean City. Yeah. So she gets up at 5:00, 2 mornings a week. And my husband will drop her off. It's like 40 minutes from here, and she'll row. And then I get the little one on this bus for summer school, and I run over and pick her up. Wow. And she'll come home, and then she'll go to work by 11. Wow. And some days she's working the 2 jobs, and other days it's just the 1 job. But awesome. I think it's good. Yeah. I think it's like I keep saying to my husband, she's not going to get in trouble. Like she's tired. She's legitimately tired. Yes. So she can go out. Like she has a 12 o'clock curfew. I don't have a problem with that. He gets upset with it, but I'm like, honestly, she's only been out twice this summer because she's so tired. So sometimes it's like, you just give them what they want, but it doesn't mean they're going to use it. Right. They just want to know that they can be out till 12 o'clock at night, but she's so tired. She's like, I'm not going out. I have to get up at 5:00 tomorrow morning. Yeah. So,
that's so good.
And I think because I'm a worker and my husband's a worker, like my son definitely gets, like, I've always worked. So I've always worked 2 jobs. Even when I lived in Philly, I worked at the bank, and then I cocktail waitressed at night. So I moved down here. I worked for the accounting firm, and I cleaned houses. Like, to me, one thing I would say to people is, don't get caught up. Like, I always thought I was too good to clean houses. Mm-hmm. I'm above cleaning somebody else's. No, you do whatever you need to do to make things happen. Absolutely. Don't think you're above anybody.
Absolutely. So, yes, that's so crucial, because even that job can lead into an even better job and an even better job. You never know. Yeah. And a lot of people will, look down on an opportunity. And because of that mindset, the universe or God or whatever you believe in will then say, okay, well, if you're too good for this opportunity, then you're not good enough for this better opportunity.
Right.
That teaching you humbleness, I think, along the way. And I'm a firm believer in God. I have firm belief and faith that when we are going through these hard times, it's a humbling process.
Yes.
Learning contentness and humbleness, humility, pretty much.
Yeah, sure.
Until we are ready to be given something even better, until we're spiritually mature enough and mentally mature enough to be able to handle the greatness that comes our way. Yeah.
Right.
And, kids, I think they listen less and they watch more. So watching you working so hard and being humble and pursuing and just grit, I think that's why they then got that same level of grit, because they watch. You could tell kids all day long what you want from them or what they should be, but if you're not doing it and showing it to them, most likely they're not going to listen as much. They need to see it in order to be able to become it. So it's incredible that you had that opportunity to struggle and show them you can work 2-3 jobs, 60 hours a week and just never quit and keep going.
Right.
Look what that gave you. Is that
here, come say hi. You want to say hi? He just put on her makeup. Come say hi.
Hi.
Do you want to say hi? No? Okay.
Oh, how old is she?
Hayden is 6.
Hi.
Did you say hi? Say hi. What was I going to say? I was going to say, and the other thing too, like back onto that.
Yeah.
It's funny because last year, like she worked last year because, this is her second summer working. Yes. But anyway, because of COVID, she spent a lot of money. Yeah. Like she did DoorDash and she did. So what I do, and I did the same thing with my son, you have X amount of dollars. So I'll buy you summer clothes. If you want above that, you're on your own. I'll buy you 2 pairs of shoes. You want above that, you're on your own. Yeah. So last year, her and her friends would DoorDash. Like she probably spent a good $1,000. It's ridiculous, but that was her money. I'm like, I'm not paying for it. You can walk to the store. I see her.
She's also shy.
So with that being said, it taught her the value of $1. Like, I think she realizes now, oh my gosh, I work so hard and I spend so much money that this year she's completely different. No, you sit right there. She's completely different this year. Like she'll walk to the store. Or it's right around the corner when I say walk, or she can ride her bike, or so now she's like, okay, I wasted a lot. I think it's important for kids to learn the value of $1. So it's for you to make X amount of dollars, you have to work. You just bought a $60 DoorDash. Yeah. So you're going to have to work like 6 hours to pay that off. So I think that's important, and a lot of kids don't get that. Teenagers, they don't, good for their parents for paying for all that stuff. It's not that we can't afford it. It has nothing to do. It's all about the values.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I've come across, and that's a tough one for me because I've come across a lot of young 20-year-olds who, they get so exhausted with having one small job at Starbucks and they're going to school at the same time. And Chris is very good with that. He has a lot more patience in mentoring those people. But for me, I have zero patience for that. So when a very young person in their 20s, starts to complain about, oh, my job and school at the same time, it's just so much. I just can't even hear it. I can't allow them to complain because what I'll say back is absolutely not. You could have it way worse because when I was in college, I had 2 jobs and going to school. I worked overnight at a hospital and went to class at 8:30 in the morning, didn't get out until 2. And then I had another job in between and then got some homework done and then was back at the hospital at 11 p.m. at night. So I feel zero sorriness for people, especially in their young 20s, to be complaining about it being too much or them not wanting a job at all while being in college, which to me just blows my mind.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Absolutely, 150%. Like, I almost think you're doing a disservice or an injustice to your children. Not, I don't. If you just hand, like, sure, do we want to hand our kids? Are any of them spoiled? Absolutely, all 3 of them are spoiled. I'm not saying that I don't give, but at the end of the day, they will all know the value of $1. They will all know how to work. Absolutely. And if you want to achieve something, you can achieve it. And she set a goal for herself this year. Like she's like, I'm going to save $10,000, which I'm like, oh, by the end of the summer, but that's her goal and she's on it. So
awesome.
Yes.
And it's so great to teach them to set big goals, realistic, but big. Stretch yourself. That is awesome. That's really good. I have a niece right now. She's 15 and she's learning because she's working at Panera Bread. So she's learning the value of $1 now, but she's spending right now. So
sure.
Yeah, we told her, you're spending a lot of money. You need to save at least some of that money. Spend $20, save $20.
Yes.
Spend $20, save $10, but save something.
Right.
So she's still kind of learning a little bit of that. But we recently, I love the fact that you keep them busy and keep them exhausted we recently, we just moved to Lancaster in August. Beautiful neighborhood. I love, so quiet. The neighbors are wonderful, so peaceful. And one morning I walked outside and our brand new car was stolen, just gone. And it's parked directly in front of our front door. You walk down our patio steps and our car is right there. And it was a brand new RAV4 SUV. And I had just bought it, I think September, and we bought it full out. We wanted zero payment. We hate interest. We don't believe in paying interest.
Right.
But we saved all, 5 years to be able to get this SUV all paid out. And I walk out one morning and it's gone. And I'm freaking out. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around an entire car being stolen. So we made the police report, and the police are like, yeah, it's these kids in the area. They're stealing cars and they ride them around and they joyride and they smoke in them. You'll probably get your car back. They're just, they have fun for a couple of days. And then usually we find the car. And I'm like, kids? So how old do you think these kids are? And they're like teenagers. And I'm like, why is this okay that teenagers in this great little town in Lancaster where we are stealing brand new cars? Why are they out of the house at 4 a.m.? Because we believe the car was stolen around 4 a.m. because my debit was in there and they used the debit at 5:10 a.m.
Gosh.
Can you believe it? So number one, why are they out at 4 a.m. all through the night, popping cars, right, looking for open cars? And two, these kids need to get to work. They need to be so exhausted that they can't be out at 4 a.m. And they need to understand the value of work and just being busy. And that's what Rob said, they're bored. So I'm like, they're bored because they're not staying busy. So that blew my mind completely, that teenagers are out here doing that. And we got the car back. They did smoke it all up and ashes everywhere, and they had fun in it. And these kids don't need money. They left money in there that was in there. There was change all over the place, snacks and drinks. So they're just so bored that they're stealing cars.
That's ridiculous.
It's incredible. Yeah. I couldn't even.
Do you know who did it?
They still have not been caught. And I can't even believe that either. That kind of speaks to, the police in this area. They did say they're understaffed. But also I think they're almost not even seeing it as a big deal, because even the cop was like, you'll probably get it back. And I'm like, that's not good. We got it back because it had GPS, and we actually didn't get it back. Like the police didn't get it back. We
got it back.
Hassled the GPS company because they wouldn't give the location to us. They can only give it to the police. And they had given the police 3 different locations in the span of those 2.5 days. And finally we got involved, and we just hassled the company and just said, you've given them 3 different locations. They still haven't gotten our car back. We want our car. Please just give us the address. And finally, a manager had given my husband the address, and it was a mile away from our house, just parked in another neighborhood. And they just.
Well, and then the sad thing is, like, these kids, it's not even registered. I think that's a felony. I mean, isn't it over
grand theft? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Grand theft.
Like, they
huge
need
felony.
To, like,
yeah.
Even if the police don't think it's serious, it's a serious. It could change their life. Absolutely.
It's a big time felony.
Yeah.
And, statistically, these crimes lead to bigger crimes. If they're not stopped and taught the valuable lessons and circumstances, what comes with these, they're just going to keep going with it.
Right.
So, yeah. And 2 days after ours was stolen, my neighbor's was stolen, like right on the same exact street. And, people leave their keys in their car. I learned that lesson. I will never do that again. That was very naive of me.
Right. Sure.
But I definitely learned. But the fact that these kids are so bored that they're out there doing that blows my mind.
Right.
So you keeping your daughter so busy and still giving her the trust to be able to have a curfew of 12 o'clock really shows your parenting skills and her maturity also, which is awesome. Yeah. It's so important to keep kids busy. Their brain
it is
physically busy. Yeah. So what type of do you do self-development? And if so, what type of self-development have you done?
Like self-help, you mean, that kind of thing?
Like any sort of like business self-development, reading books or webinars or anything like that. Are you a fan of that?
You know, when I had the business, we would always go to like hair shows. Okay. So that would better you. Yeah. Stuff like that. New York, Baltimore, stuff like that. Yeah. Personally, I'm a universe. I believe in God, but I also believe in the universe. I'm a big, what you give, you get, how you treat people, karma. I don't seek revenge. I believe the universe takes care of everything. Yeah. So I've read a lot of stuff like that. A lot of I was very codependent. Yeah. I had those years, my younger years. I read a lot about codependency. Yeah. I'm always trying to learn something new. I'm a big YouTuber. Like, I watch YouTube a lot now. I'm trying to learn about macros. Yeah. So for me, I know that's the easy way, watching YouTube. So you don't have to read. I could be on the treadmill and listen to it. Yeah. Mentally working out is a big thing for me. Like, and some people need medication. I just don't ever want to have to take medication if I don't need medication. So clarity for my head is working out. It could be walking, it could be biking. I go to the gym. I live a clean, healthy life. I mean, I drink and stuff, but I've always been trying to be healthy. So
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
Lifestyle is so huge. You know, how we exercise our brain, how we exercise our spirituality, what we put into our body, so crucial. What we're doing daily, movement. They say movement is just the key to happiness in general. Just get up.
I believe it.
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. How much better you feel if you're aggravated and
yes,
you know, tense, and you go do something for 15 minutes just to like yoga, whatever it could be. It could be anything.
Yes.
So, yeah.
How do you think business ownership has caused you to grow as a person, as opposed to if you would have been in corporate America this entire time versus you being a business owner? How do you think that grew you as an individual?
I think owning a business, and it's funny, I talked to my son about this a lot. So once I owned a business, and I'm going to say, like, I just felt differently. So, you know, like I even said this to him. So dating's a good example. Yeah. So, you know, I was worth something. Yeah. And I know that sounds weird because you're always worth something, but financially I was worth something. Yeah. So to me, it kind of upped my bar a little bit. Like, I don't mean this ignorant or snobbish or anything like that. Yeah. But I think I had lower self-esteem before I owned my business. Like, I was always a go-getter, accomplish things, but it really did. It made me more secure with myself, and it made me make choices that were probably better for myself versus when I didn't feel good about who I was and I was insecure about myself. I probably set the bar a little bit lower because I didn't think I was worthy of certain things. Yeah. So I don't mean that in any negative way. I'm just, okay.
No, that is such a great correlation, actually. And I don't think I've ever even heard that before, but it is so accurate, because I think I felt the same exact way. When I was working in corporate America, I definitely had lower self-esteem and confidence. And the boyfriends that I had at that time spoke to that, versus when I did start to work with my brother and we were partners and it was our business and all that it takes to run that business, my level for what I would accept absolutely went up. Yeah. Great correlation. I never even thought about that. And that's so true. Wow. Yes. And I think that it's a sense of fulfillment and a sense of standard for your own self. So what then you accept, even friendships, not just our dating life, but my friendships even changed with people, what I would allow in when I was in corporate America versus when I was, you know, a business owner. Because even before hospitals and pharmaceutical sales, I was in restaurants a lot during college. Of course, I was younger too, but that environment didn't have the level of people that would have been, you know, suitable for what I was trying to achieve, versus the level of friends and people you have around yourself when you're building something is completely different.
Right.
And you're so busy and focused, you really don't have the time or the energy for anything lower than that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Not statistical at all. No.
Right.
At all.
Right.
It's actually a great correlation. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. So how do you think, we talked about this a little bit before, but how do you think your upbringing at Milton Hershey affected you as a wife, a mom, and a business owner?
I definitely think Milton Hershey gave us the drive to succeed. However, everybody's success is different. It's not all the same, but I feel like it definitely, you know, gave me to succeed. It really, it pushed me to keep wanting more. But like, don't settle, keep striving to do better, to be better, to have things, to, you know, it just gave me that drive.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as a mother, I don't know about Milton Hershey parenting. I really can't, I'm not saying that it didn't, but I don't know
that there is a correlation.
I just don't know. Yeah. But I think I was close with my mom, so I follow a lot of her. She was open. I could talk to her. I think, and I also think, and it might be from Milton Hershey, I don't know where, but you always want to be better. I mean, isn't that the thing? Like, you want your kids to have more than you, not so much more that they're spoiled rotten and they don't want to get off their butts and do anything.
Right.
But you want them to be able to have, you know, like when my son was little, I wore $5 shoes and he wore $60 shoes. Like, having children, and this is where people get confused, but when you have children, it's no longer what's easy, because it's not easy when you have kids. Sure, it's easy to sit there and have cocktails and stay up to 12 o'clock at night and then put them to bed. Right. You know, you have to, it's your child comes first. So, you know, my whole thing is my children have come first. I mean, I get selfish at times, and, you know, if I want to go work out and they're going to have to watch a show, or that's different. But, you know, I don't know if it came from Milton Hershey, probably, because that's our backbone. Yeah. But, and being a wife, that's just, you know, we kind of make that as we go, because it's hard. Most of us didn't come from dual relationships to follow. So who I was when I was 20 and who I am now are two totally different people, completely. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. Total sense. Yeah. Okay. Total sense. Yeah. How do you think, so when you left Milton Hershey, you said you were very much still involved as an alumni with a lot of different things. What advice would you give other alumni who do want to get back involved in different ways?
And I think there's so many different ways to get involved. Yeah. I mean, you can be on the Alumni Association, and through the years it evolved. Like Mike Weller, he was very much involved with the association, with the school, and all that. So he pulled me in years and years and years ago. So because I'm on here, he pulled me in years ago. Yeah. But I've always kind of been like, I think find somebody that's involved and get involved. Or, you know, there's all these groups now, and like what you have going on. Yeah. I think it's just a way of giving back. Yeah. You know, so I like being involved with Milts, like from all generations. And I think that's the biggest thing. I'm you know, going into the old head, you know, because I'm older now, but don't get stuck in that. You can always help someone. And I don't mean just like somebody, you know, hey, can I borrow $5? Sometimes it's more than that. It's not necessarily about the money of helping them. Yeah. It could be guidance. It could be networking. Absolutely. Like what you're doing, this person through that person. Yeah. So I definitely think there's so many ways to get involved. And if they really, like, you're up there now, like the Alumni Association. I mean, it's been hard the last 2 years, but there's tons of ways, even at the school. Yeah. You know, I used to go back and do career day, and as shy as I was, I would get all anxious about it, but I would still do it. Yeah. So,
and I think that really helps Because it's definitely very hard, the transition out of Milton Hershey and then just kind of being on your own. I think a lot of us were excited for that. But then once, you know, we were confronted with the real world and all that it takes to survive on your own, to be able to go back and still be a part of something could help so many Milt alumni.
Right.
So that's one of the main reasons I started this podcast, is to, one, get more involved with Milton Hershey and the Alumni Association, to brand us better. And then just to also like give back
Sure.
my time, my effort, connections with people. It's so crucial. I 100% believe, you know, we can be stronger and better, and we are more qualified than any fraternity or sorority out there.
It's
Any
so true.
Ivy League fraternity or sorority, we can absolutely crush it in comparison to them. Just the deep connection that Milts have. And I think a lot of that was created because of the trauma that we came from, and then the trauma that we went through even at Milton Hershey. You know, people say when you go through trauma together, it can make you even stronger.
Right.
That is probably where we all get this weird sense of connection.
Right.
After graduation, like, oh, I know you, or I don't know you, as long as you're a Milt, we're family.
Right.
I think it came from that, you know?
Yeah.
So to now put that into a business or a networking or anything positive, that's what would make us better than any sorority or fraternity out there. It's just a deeper level of connection. That, on top of how extraordinary Milts really are, you know, our tenacity is just, it's in comparison to anything else. There's no comparison at all.
Right.
We are just,
and I think it's embracing us, like embracing, like when I was president of, I was the president of the association and president of the Philadelphia chapter, but my biggest thing was always embracing people. So if somebody was new that just came into the room, imagine you, the new person coming, it's awkward. You feel awkward. So I always try to make it a point to be like, oh, hi, give them a hug. How are you? You know, just to make them feel welcome and wanted, you know, that kind of thing. So
yeah. I remember, I think we came like the summer before the school year started. We got to the school, my sister and I. So we were in that student home, and then we right away were into the summer of opportunities, where they took us camping and all kinds of stuff. And till this day, I will always remember the two volunteers, Bill, and the other lady, I don't remember her name, but I remember her as a person.
Yeah.
They were camping with us, and during the camping, we saw a bear. And I remember her and we went to the restroom, like we went to the little porta potty, and then on the way back, we saw a bear. And instantly, I didn't even know what I was looking at, I don't think. But instantly, I just remember her grabbing me and throwing me behind her. Aww. And she had the flashlight, and she just started screaming and flashing the bear, and the bear ran away. So I just felt so safe, even though I had no idea what was going on, how she did that. And it was just impulse for her to put a stranger child behind her. She didn't know me. I didn't know her, you know? But that made such an impact on me, I think. I'll never, ever forget that. And Bill was such a kind-hearted, soft guy. But I think his softness and kindness as a man, I had never experienced that prior to Milton Hershey. I think every man I've ever come into encounter with, my dad and then my brothers mostly, were Arab and very dominating. Definitely didn't have a softness to them, very rough in the way that they would treat us, the girls. So when I encountered Bill and how like soft and kind he was, it made an incredible impact on how I saw men. How I realized they should talk to us, you know? So I'll never forget that either. Yeah, that was incredible. Yeah. So what two pieces of advice do you think you would give entrepreneurs now starting their entrepreneurial journey?
I would say just go for it. I mean, you know, just even if you are uncertain, but it's something you want to do, just go for it. I mean, there's no reason. You can always stop what you're doing. You'll never know unless you try. And then you'll always wonder, what if I did?
Yeah.
You know? So if you have a goal or a dream, but you're insecure and you're nervous, just go for it. I mean, that would be like my biggest thing, is just don't let society or anyone else dictate your feelings or how you feel for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had alluded to that earlier. You said, you know, you never overthought something. You just went for it. You took that risk. And that is, I try to tell entrepreneurs that daily. I mentor people daily. And that's probably the number one thing I say is don't overthink and just go for it. Execute. Once you overthink, then that's it. You've missed the mark, or, you know, something might have passed you up. And a prime example is with this. It's so funny because with this podcast, I had thought of the podcast when I was living in California. So that was like 3-4 years ago. I'm like, you know what? If we do go out to the East Coast, I'm going to start this podcast. And the original name was going to be Milt Talk. And once I got to Pennsylvania, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm more on the East Coast. There's more Milts here. Then I was like, okay, I want my cover art to be perfect. I had this idea of the art. It needed to be absolutely perfect before I executed. And as I was getting the cover art done, Milt Talk podcast came out. And I was like, oh my God, they have the same name. This is exactly what I thought. So right away, I reached out to them and I'm like, I can't believe you guys are doing this. This is so awesome. I was so happy that someone had the same thought process, and the name was like, that was the name, you know? And I explained to them how, like, I just took too long to execute and this is so funny. So I told them, would it be okay that I still do Milt Talk, but then add Legacy Builders to it? Because this podcast will be more about entrepreneurial Milts. And they're like, absolutely. But it was such a perfect example of what I daily tell people, just execute. Even if it's not a business opportunity, if it's something that you just want to do, a hobby or something you've always thought you'd be good at, whatever, just do it. Don't wait too long because it can pass you up. Somebody else can do it. Whatever the case is, just execute. So that even taught me the lesson I keep trying to teach other people. Right. Execute. Yeah, it's so funny.
Well, and I admire you and I admire them because it is such a, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
Like I know from doing the fundraisers and on a whole nother different level, how time consuming it is. And that's why I admire you guys. I know the hours and the time and even with them, like they had like people come in, with, you know, they had all this equipment and it's a lot. I mean, it's and I think it's wonderful that you guys are doing this. I mean, it's something that will be around forever. Like even if you decide not to stop this, you have it. They have the audio, you have the video. I think it's a wonderful, it's just wonderful. It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was on their podcast and it was such a good time because I didn't know any of them. They were older than me. But as soon as like we started talking, and I still have the video, constant laughing, just constant. And that's like, I love that they have that podcast and I hope it sticks around forever because it really is like a great place for Milts to connect, reminisce. Like the reminiscing, I think, is like what Milts like to do best. Like it's probably our favorite thing to reminisce about all the funny things about being in Milt Hershey. So we never even knew each other, but there was zero like break in conversation. Zero awkward whisk.
Because it's such a connection.
Laughter. It was amazing. And more people need to see that. So that podcast gets put out to not just Milts, but the public, for the public to see, wow, how are these people so connected? Look how they're together like this. They seem like such a fun group. I love how people view Milt Hershey now, but I definitely think they could view it even better. More as like, man, I wish I could go to that school. Instead of like, oh, that's the school for kids of poverty, you know, blah, 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 feel sorry for them. more like, wow, that's a prestigious, awesome school. These kids have such a connection. It's like establishing a second family, you know?
Right.
That's what I would love for people to visualize and see Milton Hershey School as. Something to strive to, like they would strive to a private school, you know? Milton Hershey is, in comparison to private school, again, no comparison, you know?
Right, exactly.
The fact that we don't have to pay to go there means nothing.
Right.
What they offer versus what a private school offers, zero comparison. Yeah. I would not give anything I would not go back and change anything for the relationships that I have now with fellow Milts.
Right.
As a new mom, it was so hard to make new mom friends, and then moving back to PA and being in California so long and all that, and moving from Philly to Lancaster, it's always like, man, how am I going to make new friends now? To always be able to just find another Milt and connect right away, that is so invaluable. I have to say, like, it's brought me so much comfort, because motherhood is so hard. It could be so lonely. So the fact that I could just reach out to all these mom Milts and we could connect and laugh and share and cry and just not judge each other and connect, priceless. You just can't do that with a brand new neighbor that you just met, which I'm also doing. I have, you know, neighbor friends and people not in Milton Hershey, but it's very hard making new friends. It really is. Yeah.
Well, and she's young. Once she starts school, it'll be easier. Because then you're around other moms. Yeah. You're in a transition period right now.
Yeah.
Just a hard. Yes.
Yeah. It's like a weird standstill period.
Yes.
Yeah.
COVID didn't help. COVID was like, I mean, COVID was hard.
Yes.
You know, so that you lost a whole year, like people being freaky and, you know, the kids suffered because nobody wanted to play with them, or they didn't want their kids playing with. So it will come around as soon as she starts school.
Yeah. I'm definitely looking forward to that, because I want to meet more moms, you know, have more friends that have the same vision as me, because our lives are changing and we're always looking, you know, to have the people around us that are in alignment with what we want for our own selves. Yeah. What advice do you think you would give if you were to give your younger self advice, or a young person advice? What would it be? Just any life advice.
It's probably just going back to, you know, take chances. Don't be afraid to work. Don't be afraid to have goals. Always have some type of goal. It doesn't have to be, you know, I want to conquer the world. It could be little goals. Always try and better yourself. You know, we're not perfect. I think till the day we die, we always can find some volunteer or we can always better ourselves. You know, you should never be complacent. You should always strive for new things, not necessarily material things, but it's nice to have material things. And then one good thing I would say, which is your credit. Credit is so important. And for somebody young, like I was always very, I don't know why or where it came from. It might've been my mom, but you know, financial credit is so important, and to learn financial stuff.
Yes.
You know, the value of a dollar.
Yes.
So,
yes. Yeah. You know, being in finance since 2014, that's what my husband and I do now. We're financial planners. I more like to say coaches. You know, most people use the word advisor, but I like to use the word coach, because it is absolutely a process of teaching someone. I don't like to go into finance like, okay, what's your situation? What do you need? What do you don't need? And then let me just place you in a product. Anyone can do that who's licensed. I like to really help people understand their financial situation, habits that has built their financial situation, habits that need to change, even the mindset around money. A lot of people view money as like something to pursue and also something to fear not having. And that just your mindset can change so many things about how you act towards that situation, towards that pursuit of money or saving the money or what you do with money or whatever the case is. So it is a lot of coaching that happens before I finally say, okay, based on the situation, these are the vehicles that you're going to need. And then on top of that, there's the education around these vehicles. I would say 98% of my clients are inside of vehicles that they know zero about. They're just trusting and hoping that these vehicles are right for them and are helping them.
Really good analogy. Yes. Very good analogy. Yeah.
And it's so mind eye-opening to see that, you know, people are blindly trusting where they are, what their job tells them to get into, without even understanding. Like normally one of my questions is, oh, you have a 401k. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you think you understand your 401k? And the average number is a 4. And that is so bad, because that is your retirement. That is what is going to take care of you later on in life.
Right.
You want to understand that at a level 10, you know, or how well do you understand your life insurance policy? Same thing, a 2, a 3. Can you tell me what you're covered with, or what are you paying, or how long will this cover you? And people can't answer the question. And it's scary. It's scary.
Right.
And once they see the level of their understanding, now they're more like, whoa, okay, I understand. I need to know more about this. This is very serious. But it's something that for some reason we've just been programmed to kind of trust the job, trust this, and then put it on the back burner and not really think about it too much. And then come retirement, they're suffering big time.
Right.
A lot of what I do is just coaching until we then figure out their vehicles and then get them to a level 10 and understanding every vehicle that they're in. And then now their mindset around money is more positive, healthy, progressive, no fear, because fear can be very debilitating, especially when it comes to your money. So just being in finance, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to first know the information and then be able to change all these things that are happening, because you know, the majority of people they're suffering in their retirement. They're not where they're relying on Social Security and the system to take care of them. And they're just barely surviving. So in order to change that for our generation and the newer generations to come, it has to be a complete shift of how we do money in general, how well we know our money. And like you said, the value of a dollar. And how the value of the dollar is shrinking. So, you know, $1 million in your daughter's retirement is going to be equal to maybe $400,000.
I know,
you know? It's people don't realize that expenses are rising, taxes are rising, and the money that we're receiving is not going to go as far as we think, especially as we get older. Yeah. So I'm grateful to be in the industry. I'm grateful to teach people, because this is something that most people suffer with, and they suffer in silence, which is even worse. It's like mental health. There's so much suffering, and people are embarrassed or ashamed to talk about it, or don't know who to talk to about it. And then they suffer in silence, which is the worst thing you can do financially and in your mental health. Yeah. So I'm blessed.
And I think people have to learn at a younger age. Like my son's already 34. Like he should already have something. I think it's for whatever reason, for whatever reason. And I think I just wanted to offer something different than the other salons to employees. So we started 401 Roth. I think it was a Roth.
Nice. Great.
And I did that years ago. And now I'm very happy. And there's been times that I've gone in and borrowed and paid it right back. But just knowing, again, you have a little bit of financial, look, if you just start doing it, you don't even think about it. It's done. And then here we are 24 years later. And I have most hairdressers don't have that. They just, I don't know any other salon around me that even does it. But so that was a good, going back to like, you know, that was a little bonus for the girls. At first they didn't realize it, but I'm like, just put $20 away a week. And then when you have more, put $50 away a week.
Yes.
So
huge.
yeah.
And a Roth being tax exempt, huge.
Right.
People don't understand. And I see it every day in people who are trying to now take money out of their 401k, and all these taxes are being taken out. And they're like, wait a minute, I had 80,000 in there. Why am I only receiving 50,000? Well,
right.
because it's a tax deferred vehicle. So the taxes haven't been taken out when you were putting it in. So now they're going to be taken out on the back end. And that's devastating to so many people because they're not expecting that.
Right.
So
right.
the fact that you did that, and like you said, the universe will pay you back for that a million times because you set them up properly. So kudos to you for that. And like you said, they didn't realize it now, but they will be realizing it later. Yeah. That is awesome. That makes me happy. Yeah. So we will end on this note. 2 more questions. What does it mean to you to be a Milt?
I am just part of the biggest family on the universe. Yeah. So, you know, for me, I'm humble. I love our family. I mean, we all have our ups and downs like every other family does. But being a Milt means I'm just proud to be a Milt. I'm very proud that I went to Milton Hershey School. I'm proud of who I've become being a Milt. So yeah, that's we'll leave it at that.
Family is like the #1 answer that I get. Yeah. And lots of pride. That's right. There's a lot of pride that comes with being a Milt. Yeah. I don't look, that's what bugs me. I think when people automatically associate Milton Hershey with kids of poverty, because it's like that's just like the smallest thing about Milts and Milton Hershey. Like there is so much more that we have from Milton Hershey other than, oh, you know, you go there if you come from poverty, you know? Right. So the rebranding of all of that for the public is so important to me. Yeah. And last question, what's your overall vision for your legacy? What do you want your kids to be set up with, mindset, whatever you want to be involved in that legacy, and what do you want people to remember you by?
I definitely, I think you should always give back. So whatever it could be. So, you know, I always give back to Milton Hershey. I give my time, you know, but personally at home, I started, it was years ago, because of new owners, that's not their thing, but whatever. It was called Pretty in Pink. Okay. And we would do it in October, and it was breast cancer awareness. And we would do a pink hair extension. So I'd raise money. So I'd raise money for the local charity. So I donated my time. That was what I did. Yeah. But we raised, I forget how much, you know, over a period of like 10 years. But so we would go to all the schools, whoever wanted to do it. We would go to the schools, the different sports, and it was known around here. Like commonly you'd walk into ShopRite and somebody would have a pink hair extension. You know who did it because it was my brand. It wasn't more than one person doing it. So I think you always have to give back. Whether it's the school, whether it's your community, whether it's church, it could be anything. There's no right, wrong, whatever. But I just think we should always be humble and know that there's somebody out there, whether it could be cancer or somebody that's not as well off. It could be, you know, helping with poorer people, just always somehow try and give back something. Yes. And my kids have seen that. They've seen it through Milton Hershey. They've seen it through my Pretty in Pink. My daughter, who's 16, she would have to go and stand on the, you know, the lacrosse fields with me or the field hockey, you know, while I was doing it, or she's seen the gift baskets from Milton Hershey. She's witnessed me being and my son, but really so my daughter, and they know I'm involved. I will help people. I'm compassionate. I never think we're above, you know, we all started on the same line. Some people got up, some people got down, you know, but we're all human beings and we're all equal to some degree.
Absolutely. So that's so crucial to have the opportunity to give back and show compassion and empathy to people, and then be able to let your kids see that. A lot of times, one thing I've been seeing in a lot of kids, these days is like a sense of selfishness, coldness, a lack of empathy. And I think a lot of that is this rat race, you know, their parents are in. So then their mind isn't in a place of empathy for others, compassion, giving time, volunteering, whatever the case is. So then the kids aren't able to see that as much. So when you have that opportunity to show that to your kids, it is so, I can't even talk about the value that brings to that child, because it will eventually change the world and how people treat each other. You know, one of the things that I learned growing up, my two sisters, they didn't go to Milton Hershey. They were too old, so they didn't get accepted. So my one sister, she had moved to Pennsylvania with us. She lived with my mom. She worked for like a boarding school for mentally disabled residents. So when we would go home on the weekend, you know, we wouldn't just hang out at home and do nothing. We would go with my sister to the house that she would live in. She was a house parent basically for
right. Yeah.
residents. Yeah. And I would watch her take care of them, and I would get involved. And at first it would make me really sad, and I didn't want to really see it. I would always go home crying. But then once I got over that sadness, I was able to really understand the level of empathy for people. And it made me such a person. I think it was that. I also saw my mom. My mom was a caregiver. When we came to America, she had no papers either. So she worked a lot under the table, cleaning houses and cleaning restaurants, and then also caretaking for foreigners. There was a lot of that in the Arab community where they didn't want to go through like insurance or anything like that. They just wanted another Arab to caretake. And in our country, my mom was like the village nurse. So that was natural for her. And she would also, like from 10 and younger, I would go with my mom, and she would also be taking care of people in front of me. So I was able to see that. And I think that those situations is what made me be like this person who constantly cares for people. Like all day long, I can't go to the city because every single person who asks me for $1 or a coffee or something, I'm going to give it to them. It's hard for me to see people hurting and not automatically want to say, here, take some shoes, take my jacket, I'll get another one.
Sure.
And it really did come from that. Whereas I see a lot of kids. Just the other day, I watched a video where some teenagers in Australia, it was like a pack of 6 teenagers who started to beat up these 3 Asian people. And these
now, why do you watch that? Isn't that so disturbing?
So disturbing. I can't watch stuff like I know. That. And I never watch like that kind of stuff. It was on social, and I saw it, and I'm just like, what is wrong with these teenagers these days? Where is the teaching of empathy and compassion that they can even do that? Like I couldn't even finish seeing it because it was too disturbing to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like more kids need to see their parents or adults or kids their age showing these things of compassion, kindness, you know, softness to their fellow people, because otherwise the world can go one of 2 ways. It can continue to get colder and colder and harsher, or people can learn more empathy and compassion, and it could slowly become a better world. So right now, I think we're on the brink. With all this stuff that's going on, all the fear, all the uncertainty, people can either go this way or they can either go this way. So, and it's the kids who are going to change the projection of the world in general. It's these younger kids. They are the future.
Well, and it's the parents that need to guide in that. Yes. Again, it comes down to when you become a parent.
No.
It's not about you any longer. It's about your child. So, and unfortunately, I think sometimes some of the kids get lost because it's still about the parent. It's still the parent, the kid is second and the parent is first. And it's really not the way, I mean, I don't know if I just don't think that's the way it should be. It's about your children. You want your children to have a better life. You want to teach your children, like everything that we're doing. So
absolutely. Yeah. You know, parenthood is probably about sacrifice, number one.
It is. You know, absolutely. Your mom sacrificed. My mom always said Milton Hershey was the hardest thing she did.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could put my kids in Milton Hershey. I don't know if I could be away from them, you know? So
Yeah.
Even Hayden, like there's, you know, somebody said to me, but I don't care. I mean, first of all, I have the means, so why would I? I mean, it's not meant to, Mount Hershey's not meant for us to keep putting our kids back in the school. It's you learn and you grow from it.
Yes, so, absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. What a great conversation, Susan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this.
Yes. I learned so I've always seen your name, but I never knew you as a person. I never heard your voice. So I'm so glad I finally got a chance to hear your voice. Yeah.
This has been wonderful. It really has. It's been really nice.
Thank you so much. Yes. Right. So we will say goodbye. And if there's anything you want people to know, go ahead, shout it out. Any social media, anything you're working on, anything you want to say to fellow Milts, definitely use this time. Otherwise, we could definitely say goodbye.
Yeah, we'll just say goodbye. I could shout out
so much. And I hope we get a chance to see each other at homecoming.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Virtual hug.
Yes, virtual hug.
Okay, take care.
Thank you too.